Let's get to Chad Pergram now, senior congressional correspondent. Chad, tell us about what we are seeing and hearing there live on Capitol Hill.
Well, right now, Kevin McCarthy does not have the votes. The more members who cast ballots for someone by name other than Kevin McCarthy, that's worse for Kevin McCarthy. Right now, we've had 5 votes for Andy Biggs. We've had 3 votes for other persons here, Jim Banks of Indiana, Jim Jordan, another person getting votes as well. So the more votes that Kevin McCarthy does not get by name and somebody doesn't vote present, that's bad news for him. And that's why very early on in this vote, we know that this is going to go to a second ballot for the first time, as you say, in 100 years. Now, the reason they are going through this vote right now, it is the first order of business in the House of Representatives. Once they determine a quorum, once they get everybody to the chamber, which was the first vote at noon, that they have to have a vote for Speaker. The first order of business in a new Congress is electing a Speaker, and that's why the House is frozen, paralyzed until it gets a Speaker. You can't vote on legislation. You can't put people on committees. You can't start investigations into Hunter Biden's laptop. None of that. They can't even swear the members in. Right now, all of these people you're seeing sitting on the House floor are technically representatives-elect. They're not sworn in. The Speaker will swear them in once they get a Speaker. And I'm told that these positions among Republicans are hardening right now. The opponents, after that very intense, feisty meeting this morning, that it got worse for Kevin McCarthy, and that's where several sources tell me this could take a few days.
So, Chad, what are the possible outcomes here, then? If McCarthy can't get to 218 in a first or even a second vote, I mean, you could potentially start to bring in some other candidates, and these hardline opponents of Kevin McCarthy are saying, well, there's a mystery candidate out there that we might bring in. And people are thinking, well, who could that potentially be? And we should point out that the rules state that you don't have to be a sitting member of Congress or even a member of Congress elect to become the Speaker. There has been some talk that somebody might try to nominate former President Trump for Speaker.
We heard some of that talk about a year and a half ago right now, but I'll tell you, if Kevin McCarthy doesn't have the votes to be Speaker, Donald Trump doesn't have the votes to be Speaker, Jim Jordan would not have the votes to be Speaker. The 2 other names I hear mentioned a little bit here in the hallways are Tom Cole, Republican of Oklahoma, and Patrick McHenry, who is in line to be the chair of the Financial Services Committee. He's a Republican from North Carolina. But again, you have to go through a lot of votes here, probably break a lot of furniture and glassware in the U.S. Capitol before you get to that. Maybe Steve Scalise could get to that magic number. And again, it doesn't have to be 218. We have elected 3 speakers, Newt Gingrich, John Boehner, and also Nancy Pelosi, with fewer than 218 votes. But if everybody votes for somebody by name, 434 being the total number of the House right now based on that quorum call, it is, in fact, 218. Now, you might have attrition if this goes on a few days. People get sick. People have travel plans. There was a Republican-elect on that side of the aisle who had a baby a couple of days ago, so you don't know who's going to be here. You know, you try to get 434 people in the same room at the same time. But again, it's going to be very hard to have somebody get more votes than Kevin McCarthy. And that's where, if this drags on for several days or a week, that's where maybe people start to say maybe there's a coalition candidate out there that maybe some Democrats and some Republicans could support. But that is still unclear. That's a long way away from this. And that's why, you know, I've not seen this much chaos on Capitol Hill in a long time. You know, a lot of times you can go up to members, senior members, and say, what's going to happen? Well, and they'll give you one scenario, and then they'll give you another scenario. Nobody really knows how this is going to go because we've not seen this in 100 years. And I'm going to give you 2 nightmare scenarios here. It took them 2 weeks in 1849 to elect the Speaker of the House, Hal Cobb, and it took them 2 months in 1856. The House was paralyzed that entire time.
Chad, the New York Times in their write-up this morning made the prediction that this could prompt chaos not seen on the House floor in a century, noting what you just said there, that every speaker since 1923 has been able to clinch the gavel after just 1 vote. So now this process continues, the successive votes until someone, whether it's McCarthy or a different nominee, is able to secure enough supporters to prevail. So set this up for us. I mean, what do the coming days and weeks look like for this to play out?
We're kind of into uncharted territory here. Kevin McCarthy seems pretty steeled in his resolve that he's going to continue to ask for votes here. And the rule is, and this is up to Cheryl Johnson, the clerk of the House. This is the outgoing clerk of the House who presides over the House until they get a speaker. You're going to see her up there a lot the next few days. because Kevin McCarthy and his allies are going to continue to say, we want to wear these guys down. This is kind of like the Stockholm syndrome here. You keep everybody here day after day, night after night, and they start to agree with their captors. That could backfire. That could work the other way, where people get more, steeled in their resolve and oppose Kevin McCarthy. Some people have said to me the past 24 hours or so that they say that this demonstrates that Kevin McCarthy is not ready to be Speaker, because if he was ready to be Speaker, he would have had this all nailed down a long time ago. Keep in mind that in the fall of 2015, Kevin McCarthy was the majority leader. John Boehner decided to resign as Speaker, and we thought for several days that Kevin McCarthy was the odds-on favorite, that this was going to be a fait accompli. He did not have the votes. It comes down to the math. His high water mark was about 219, which is just one over than what you need. I was told that his number was actually lower in the 200s. And what we might be seeing on the House floor is a fight that did not occur in 2015, that was delayed for 7 years. Perhaps Kevin McCarthy is just never going to be the Speaker of the House.
You know, Chad, you talked about a couple of nightmare scenarios in terms of the amount of time that it might take to get this done. But is there a potential nightmare scenario for the Republicans here, based on what you said about people voting present instead of actually voting for a candidate, potential attrition, that the Democrats actually get to the magic number and the Republicans don't?
Yeah, in that case, you would have to have people who are away. You would also have to have, as you say, people vote present. You know, the Democrats come in right now at 212. This will be about the math at some point here. And so if that number 212 is one more than half of what the whole House of Representatives is, and the Democrats all stick together, and you don't have attrition there where maybe there's a coalition that forms between Democrats and Republicans after this goes on for several days, you could certainly see maybe Hakeem Jeffries getting the votes. That is unlikely to happen. But this is where, when you talk to some of the more moderate Republicans, they say if it's not Kevin McCarthy, it's not going to be any sitting Republican. And the scenario you bring up of former President Trump, or maybe another person that we've not heard from, Colin Powell, he used to get votes for Speaker as a protest. Jeff Sessions, when he was a senator from Alabama, Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky, David Walker, who was the controller of the currency, and a couple of names that have been bounced on me on the past 2 or 3 weeks here is now former members, as of just about an hour ago, Lee Zeldin, Republican of New York, Fred Upton, Republican of Michigan. They are now former members. They are moderates. And you might see a scenario where Democrats say, look, we need to get on with the business of governing. We've been through X number of votes with Kevin McCarthy. It's never going to happen, but maybe we have a coalition candidate and they bring in some moderate person. Again, that's never happened, to have a non-member be Speaker of the House. There is one more scenario that might be the safety valve here for Kevin McCarthy. In both of those speakers' races, in 1849 and 1856. The House voted and voted and voted 133 ballots in 1856. And what they finally said is, look, it's obvious we cannot get an outright majority of the entire body to vote for Speaker. So what they did is they put forth a resolution which was adopted by a simple majority. So this might be Democrats and Republicans that say, on the next ballot, if we do not get a Speaker, what we will do is we will lower the bar, and the person with the most votes, just the person who has the most votes, which is what Kevin McCarthy certainly has right now, that person will be the winner. And that is how they elected Speaker Hal Cobb in 1849 and Nathaniel Banks in 1856. But that was way down the road. You could see that happen in this case because, it might not be a situation where the math ever works under these circumstances for Kevin McCarthy.
Okay, Chad Pergram joining us live there as we continue to watch the House floor on Capitol Hill. Thank you very much, Chad. We'll see you again shortly.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.